movie theater carpet in itself is a vibe. I don't know if it's my vibe, but... Hello, welcome or welcome back. I'm Natalie and this is my channel Knitily, where I talk about all of my creative endeavors. I'm currently hyper-fixated on knitting, but I also do pottery and some other crafts here and there. Today is a really fun video. I haven't done a video like this yet, so I'm really excited. I have been kind of compiling a list of knitting references that I found in media, like TV shows and movies, and compiled a list of references for patterns based on the knitwear that I found out there in the world. So alongside me I have a sparkling watermelon juice from Trader Joe's. If you haven't had one of these, they're so good and so perfect for summer. So I also have my iPad here. I have a ton of things to go through, and I am saving my favorite for last. So if you want to stick around and watch the whole thing, or skip to the end because you have free will. So I kind of split them into two separate categories. The first one is nostalgia and cartoons, and the second one is like rom-coms and drama. And then there might be a little that don't kind of fit into those categories, but that doesn't matter. So starting with nostalgia and cartoons. I'm a huge nostalgia person. I've said this I think in one of my other podcasts, but I feel like I'm just like a little kid at heart. I love like bubblegum and cotton candy flavored things, and SpongeBob is like something that I grew up watching, and there's just so many things that feel so key childhood in my personality. I love cereal. Cereal I think is one of the best desserts these days. Not as much a breakfast thing anymore, but Lucky Charms for dessert, hell yeah. We're gonna start with the first one, which is Doug. Doug is, I feel like, so I was born in 95, so I grew up with like, I grew up on Nickelodeon cartoons. I don't know if Doug's Nickelodeon, I think so, but Doug was like slightly before my time of watching TV shows, but I have an older brother, and so I kind of watched whatever he was watching. And I do remember watching Doug a lot, and Doug wears this like green v-neck vest, slipover as the knitting people call it, and I'm just a sucker for green knitwear. I love the color green, and his v-neck sweater vest is just, it's so classic, and his like t-shirt underneath is so crisp, and I love like, I don't know, something about a cartoon character like wearing the same thing every day, and it just is so built into their personality. I feel like Doug's sweater vest is really cool because it has kind of a thick, rounded ribbing detail, and I think maybe it's just part of drawing knitwear in cartoons that you have to do ribbing a little bit more intentionally, like when you're drawing it for a cartoon. And his, I feel like almost could be like a really cool chunky I-cord edge detail on like a classic sweater vest. For my pattern recommendations, I tried to find some that weren't as common. Like I'm not recommending petite knit or my favorite things knitwear, or you know, there's some bigger ones that I'm recommending, but not like classic one. I kind of wanted to dig a little bit deeper. So the pattern that I found for this one was the All Season Vest by Noriko Ichikawa. I knit the Zakuri cardigan by Noriko Ichikawa, and I loved that pattern. I feel like something about their designs are just classic, but also a little bit elevated or a little bit interesting, or have just like slightly different thought out details. So that vest pattern, it looks really great. I also found the Wildwood v-neck vest worsted by Ashley Lillis, and it has a really cool increase or decrease detail inset from the ribbing. So there's like you could see like a channel of the increases or decreases. I think it's worked bottom or top down, but I could be wrong on that. And I think it just kind of gives just a more interesting detail to a sweater vest than some other ones out there. So number 2 is also from Doug. Patty Mayonnaise is a character in Doug. First of all, her last name is Mayonnaise, which is really funny. I know it's kind of disgusting, but also just Patty Mayonnaise It's just so cartoon. She has an amazing colorful polka dot sweater, and like imagine being a cartoon character and you're picking out the outfit that you're going to be wearing every single day for the rest of your life, and you pick a colorful polka dot sweater. How like bold and classic is that? That's just so fun. So I had a little trouble finding a polka dot sweater pattern. I don't know what it is, but it was a little bit troublesome for me. But I had these mittens saved in my Ravelry for a while. They're called Put Me in the Zoo Mittens by Julia Farwell-Clay. And I don't know why they're called Put Me in the Zoo. I'm sure there's a reference that I'm not getting there. But they're these really cool polka dot colorful mittens. I have not yet knit any mittens or gloves or any kind of handwear piece, and I feel like these are on my list for later this year to do, and the polka dot is just kind of fun. So I really like those. And I also found this sweater called the Arthur sweater by Johanna Gehrisch. I think that's how you pronounce it. I think I have a couple other patterns from this designer on this list. So, but yeah, it's a really cool pattern. It's really fun, and it just has these big polka dots all over it, and just like a kind of a classic fit. I think it would also be really fun to do a polka dot sweater where the polka dots have mohair or some kind of fuzzy element to it, where the base of the sweater doesn't, so it kind of has this difference in texture where the polka dots are. Plus, mohair I think would give it a little bit more of a fuzzy or rounded shape to a circle, rather than like sometimes in knitwear, if there's a round kind of motif, you can kind of see the stitch detail, but I think mohair would kind of eliminate that a little bit to be more noticeably polka dots. So really like that one. Speaking of Arthur, the Arthur sweater, the next one I have is Arthur. He's wearing this yellow v-neck sweater, and yellow is also a color that I really love. It's the leash and collar that I have for my puppy Elmer. I have a big yellow blanket on my couch at all times, and I think it's just a really fun color that's obviously big right now. I know butter yellow is trending, and honestly it could be really cool to do a butter yellow v-neck sweater inspired by Arthur, but I think I would prefer to do kind of a bolder yellow sweater. I used to have a thrifted, really chunky turtleneck yellow sweater that was originally from H&M. Actually, my best friend and I both thrifted the same sweater in the same color at different points. I mean, it's H&M, so I'm sure there was millions of them out there, but I miss that sweater a lot. It was acrylic, and it just didn't really feel like the best quality. So I think it'd be nice to re-knit a yellow sweater that I could wear more frequently. And yeah, I miss it. So the sweater that I'm recommending, the pattern that I'm recommending for this is the Harlow sweater v-neck by Caidree. I haven't knit a pattern by Caidree, but I've heard some really good things. And this pattern has a neckline that looks like it's folded over. I don't know how you do that necessarily in a v-neck. I'm not a big v-neck wearer, and honestly probably wouldn't knit a v-neck for my personal style, but I think that the way that this pattern looks, it's a really rounded, kind of voluminous like rib on the v-neck, which again feels very that like cartoon ribbing style. So this pattern also has splits at the bottom, which aren't, I mean, Arthur has his kind of like folded under. I feel like that's kind of a classic wearing a sweater look, and you don't have to add slits to a knitwear, but I do like that detail. I did a little split hem on my frog baby tee, which you'll see in the next podcast if you haven't seen it already, and I think it's a fun little detail. So. Okay, still in the Arthur universe, there's a really simple one, but Francine has a ringer style sweater. It might be a sweatshirt, but we'll just say it's a sweater. And the color combo is what got it for me. It's like kind of this maroony burgundy base with a red or pinkyish, reddish, orangey. It's kind of hard to tell exactly what the color is, but maybe it's more reddish orange. Neckline and the cuffs and the hem of the sweater. And I love ringer tee style. I think it's just a fun way to add a little bit more detail to a piece by just adding a contrast color. And so I think you could use any of your favorite crew neck sweater. I'm a big sweatshirt wearer, so that's why that's coming out. But I think you could use any classic crew neck sweater pattern and just do contrast on the cuffs, the collar, and the hem. But the pattern that I'm going to recommend is actually the Alma sweater by KissKissRhinestones on Instagram. It's a striped sweater, but it has very similar colors to Francine's sweater, and I just am obsessed with this color combo, this like burgundy and like this pinkish color. And it's kind of a low contrast thin stripe, which I think is so good. I have been obsessed with stripes ever since finishing my Olga sweater, and I can't wait to knit another striped sweater. So this might be on my list for later this year. We'll see. Okay, number 5. Let's move on to some SpongeBob ones. I can't do a knitwear and media video without talking about the famous striped sweater in SpongeBob. But did you know that the sweater is actually a vertically striped sweater? I feel like if you're thinking about a striped sweater, you just think of horizontal stripes, but in the SpongeBob episode where he's thinking about a striped sweater, the fish is wearing a vertically striped sweater, and it's in this really cool lime greenish yellow color with green vertical stripes down it. Very few, but I think it looks so good. And the stripes on the front are vertical, and the sleeves are kind of horizontal, which I think just looks so cool. Yeah, I surprisingly struggled to find a good representation of a sweater pattern for this. I did a little bit of research on vertical stripes, and it seems complicated to do knitting, which I honestly didn't anticipate, because I would just assume that you could hold 2 strands of yarn and do kind of like every other. But it creates a thicker sweater, which colorwork in general does. So that's why I'm still a little bit confused on why that doesn't really exist out there. But I've had the Hilma sweater by Amy Blackwell saved on my Ravelry for a while, and it's just so fun. It has a little mock neck, not too far from the SpongeBob guy, and vertical stripes, and it's very colorful. And I don't see why you couldn't just do 2 colors. I think it has just like layers of kind of like a vertical grid of colors, and it just looks so good. It looks so professional. It looks so high end. I don't know if it's the yarn or the colors or like the amount of detail involved in that sweater, but it just looks really cool to me. And again, I feel like you could try to do it in just 2 colors to kind of get that like more simplified look. And then you also could do a ribbed sweater to kind of give that vertical stripe kind of appearance without using more than 1 color. So I've had the fancy Edvard sweater by Johanna Gehrisch saved for a while, and it's cool because it has ribbing one way on the top and then another way like after the chest. So I think it's horizontal up here, and then it goes vertical. And I think that's just a really fun like detail that I don't see a lot out there. And there's a bunch of other textured knits on this list, and I really want to knit an all over textured sweater at some point this year, because I think it's really fun and gives a little bit of a break from stocking knit over and over. So I'm going to take a sip of my drink. I've been watching Ryan Trahan's 50 States in 50 Days videos, and every time they take a sip of coffee in those videos, it's that like little slurpy sound. And I think every time I've been taking a sip since watching those videos, I make that sound in my head, and I can't tell if I'm actually hearing that slurp sound or if it's in my head. So, okay. Sticking with SpongeBob, there is a winter episode of SpongeBob where Squidward is wearing this really cool brown turtleneck sweater. I say really cool, but it's not anything crazy. It's like a brown turtleneck. You could just pick any turtleneck pattern and knit it in brown, and there you go. You're Squidward in a winter SpongeBob episode. But I actually found this Uptown turtleneck by Chinua and Mathews, and it has a ribbed turtleneck and ribbed sleeves, which again, cartoon ribbing sticks out, so why not do the whole sleeve in ribbing? And the sample is the perfect brown shade that matches Squidward's brown sweater, so I had to mention it. It just is so good, and Squidward's is really cool. So I've been really liking brown recently, and I want to knit a brown sweater. I have a whip for the Velma top, which is a vest, and I'm using it in a really, really dark brown color, and I'm loving how that's working up. And I prefer brown over black right now in terms of colors to wear. So a brown turtleneck, solid. Okay, another SpongeBob one out there for all you weenies. I promise I'll move on from SpongeBob if you're not like a SpongeBob person, but this one is from the Flying Dutchman. There's an episode where they go on Flying Dutchman's ship, and Flying Dutchman, his pajamas basically, is wearing a sock on his ghost tail. And the sock is just kind of a classic sock. It's just like a white sock with a gray toe, a gray heel, but a royal blue stripe around the top of the sock, just like a classic sock, you know? And yeah, I feel like I wanted to do a little shout out to my little internet friend Cleo at StitchedbyCleo. She just released her girlfriend sock pattern, and it's so similar to the Flying Dutchman sock. Just doing it in a white with a royal blue detail and a gray toe, I think could be really cute. I can't wait to knit that pattern. It's on my list of socks patterns to try. And Cleo is really cute. She started posting YouTube videos recently, so go check her out if you haven't already. Alrighty, moving on. Let's talk about Ashley Spinelli from Recess. Recess is also in that kind of same category as Doug in my brain. Like their neurons are firing really close together, but I used to have my hair cut short for a really long time, and I have an orange beanie, and Ashley Spinelli has these cool pigtails that stick out with her orange beanie. And when I had my hair cut short, I loved wearing pigtails with my orange beanie, and I just felt like her. I don't really know anything about her character. I don't have a vivid memory of her, but I know that vibe so clearly of her pigtails and beanie. So, and reviewing this is making me want to cut my hair again, but you know, I've been growing it for years, and maybe I shouldn't, but maybe I should. I don't know. But there's a ton of beanie patterns out there, but I just pulled the Essential Beanie by Andrea Gaughan, and the rib on that one just looks like it matches Ashley Spinelli's ribbing perfectly. It's kind of like a chunkier rib, but like a short beanie, like above your ears, which is how I prefer beanies. I prefer beanies for the fashion and not for the function. Sorry. Okay. But yeah, and doing it in a really fun orange color would be great. Okay. Another cartoony nostalgia category is in fact Stuart Little. I think part of the fun factor here is that Stuart is a mouse and really small, and so like inherently small sweaters are very cute. But there's a couple sweaters that I saw images of him wearing. One of them is this like navy or royal blue sweater that's a little bit textured, and it has like a white stripe around the collar and the sleeves and the hem, and it's kind of that like retro style that I really like. It's like retro preppy or something like that, And yeah, so the pattern I picked for this one is the Judy sweater by Gregoria Fibers. Like I said, I'm working on the Vilma top, which is also by Gregoria Fibers, and I love how that is working on it. And the Judy sweater has a really interesting texture that if I zooming in on Stuart Little's blue sweater, it has this kind of like texture element to it that I really like, and I wanted a texture sweater like I said, so I think this one could be really fun. And I love a royal blue sweater right now. I feel like I've seen a bunch on Instagram and it's kind of like a color that's calling to me. So you could easily do any sweater pattern and just do like a little stripe in the ribbing instead of Francine's version where it's the whole ribbing of the neckline and the cuffs and the hem. Just doing one little stripe in all of those places I think could be really fun and add a little like sporty preppy tennis type touch to it, so would be pretty cute. Another sweater that Stuart Little wears is this light green one, and it has, well, it's green, but I think the top part is light green, then there's like royal blue stripes, and then the bottom is a different green, and it's just like a fun color combo that I don't really see a lot, like a green, 2 shades of green and a blue. It's just really fun. And I love a like striped color block situation. Again, it's a little bit of that like sporty, or like it's like a 90s boy like outfit of some sort, like a little sporty, colorful, like primary color combination that I just really like. And so I've had the pattern for the Meadow Sunset sweater by Jojo Knitwear saved in my Ravelry for a long time. It has a subtle texture and a thick stripe, and I think it just looks so good and kind of is that same vibe of like color blocking a little bit. There's a little bit of texture and interest, but it's not overly complex. And I think it could be fun to do like a dark forest green base with like a royal blue stripe in the middle or something like that. I've been loving color combinations right now, so I think that could be fun to play around with. Okay, and then the last of the animation nostalgia category is the iconic Coraline sweater. I'm sure this has come up a lot in like any other video that people are talking about knitwear and media. It's just so iconic. So if you haven't seen Coraline, Coraline is stop motion, kind of a spooky Halloween-y movie. I am terrified of scary things, and I can stomach it, but it is pretty scary. So if you're a scaredy cat like me, be careful if you haven't seen it. But the pattern that I think could be really cool for this is actually the Chalet jumper by Ranti, Ehinmola, Ranti Studios on Instagram. I've been following Ranti for a while, and I've had this pattern saved for a while, and looking at this pattern you wouldn't think Coraline, because it is a marled, just like crew neck, maybe a little bit of a roll neck sweater, and it's just really chunky. I think it's bulky weight, and it would work up really quickly, but I picked this one for the Coraline sweater because I think that you could choose like maybe like 3 strands or something, where 2 are like the dark blue navy that is kind of the base of Coraline sweater, and 1 that's either a slightly lighter blue or a silvery or a gray, or maybe like one of those sparkly yarns, because Coraline's star sweater actually looks a little bit sparkly. So her sweater is dark blue with sparkly element and thick stars all over. And so I think doing a marling kind of effect would give a little bit of dimension that her sparkles kind of add to her knit without maybe necessarily adding sparkles yourself. And then I think you could duplicate stitch stars on top of it. So there's stars on top of this like slightly dimensioned sweater, and I think it would be really cool. I just finished a duplicate stitch frog on a frog BBT that you'll see in whatever. I'm not going to talk about it too much because I did a project vlog and it'll be in the next podcast. But I love duplicate stitching. I had such a blast doing it, and I think mimicking the Coraline sweater with duplicate stitch would just be really satisfying. So that is that one. Okay, and then the next category is like rom-coms and dramas. So we'll start with When Harry Met Sally, which I think is just one of those movies that is the first movie in the recommended if you search knitting or knitwear in media. When Harry Met Sally is going to come up because they wear just like some iconic cable knit sweaters in that movie. And I honestly wasn't going to include it because I was like, I don't want to do everything that everyone else is doing. I want to like come up with my own references, blah blah blah. But I watched it the other night and the knitwear is so good. It's like, when you think of a cream cable knit sweater, like it's not the cream cable knit sweater that I think of, and I think it's because Harry's like iconic sweater has a fisherman rib element to it that, again, I've been really liking that kind of like textured element recently, and that's what did it for me, is the fisherman rib, not just the fact that it's a cable knit sweater. It's a cable knit sweater where like the gaps between the cables is fisherman rib. So really cool. I did find a pattern called the When Harry Met Sally jumper by Jojo House on Ravelry. There weren't really any projects for it, so I don't know like how much I should recommend that pattern, but it looks exactly like Harry's. So I think you could probably also do another fisherman rib type sweater or a cable knit sweater that maybe has spaces and kind of do fisherman rib instead. I think that could be kind of interesting, just playing around with it. But I took a bunch of pictures of knitwear in that movie, but one of my favorites is actually this plaid sweater that Harry wears in the scene where Sally is faking an orgasm in a food court. But his sweater is really good in that one. It's like, it's kind of like blue and blue purpley gray plaid sweater, and it's so good. Again, it's just kind of that like vintagey, a little bit preppy, sporty. Plaid to me is kind of like a preppy, sporty pattern that I actually don't have too many things, but I think a plaid sweater would be really fun. And a pattern that I've saved for a while is the Abstracta pullover by Albiona McLaughlin, and it's so good. I feel like there's so many possibilities for playing around with color in plaid and just like that like all over color work type garment. And there's one in the pattern or in the projects that's this like red, burgundy, and pink combo that a little girl is wearing with like the sickest pigtails ever, and I love that color combo. Again, really similar to the sweater that I mentioned before by KissKissRhinestones. That color combo is so good, and a plaid sweater like that could be really fun. But I also think you could go with the classic or Harry's sweater version where it's like a cool tone, dark gray and blue and stuff. So really cool. The same day that I watched When Harry Met Sally, I also watched You've Got Mail, which is a movie that I remember watching with my aunt. My aunt passed away from cancer like 15 years ago, and Meg Ryan in that movie really reminds me of my aunt because my aunt used to have hair cut really similar, and honestly they look a little bit similar, and I watched that movie with her, and so it was really sweet, like having a little bit of a nostalgia like element to watching that movie again. But yeah, a little Meg Ryan doubleheader that night, and there's a bunch of cool knitwear in that one. I think there are two of my favorites were this like navy ribbed turtleneck that Meg Ryan's character is wearing, and it is in this like tweedy yarn, and I think it just looks so good. I found this pattern called the Hudson by Julie Hoover, and I think it would look really cool in a navy tweed yarn and kind of have this fitted ribbed turtleneck. I'm using the Rowan felted tweed yarn for socks for my boyfriend, and I'm sure they have a navy colorway that like the fluffiness of that yarn would be really cool and like a ribbed texture. feel like normally if you want to do like ribbed or like a textured knit, you don't want it to be fluffy, but something about it I feel like could be really cool. So I also want to explore using the Make It Tweed yarn, and I feel like it could be a cool opportunity to do it in like a turtleneck. So really like that one. My other favorite from You've Got Mail is one that George Papa's character is wearing, which was really funny because I just watched White Lotus season 1 and he's in that too. And it was funny watching him in his younger days in You've Got Mail. So, but he wears this sweater that's dark, like a dark gray or dark brown sweater, and it has vertical stripes. Again, I think it's just so cool. And I don't have a pattern for that. Again, I had trouble finding that, but I had the idea of doing, you could duplicate stitch vertical stripes. In his sweater, there's very few stripes on it, so I think there's only like maybe 2 or 3 in the front, and like I don't even think he had any down in the sleeves. But it really wouldn't take too long to duplicate stitch vertical stripes on it, so I feel like I could definitely see myself doing that kind of sweater in the future. So, okay, in Love Actually, Keira Knightley wears this off-the-shoulder short sleeve top that has this like huge chunky cable piece on the top of it. That when I first saw it, I actually thought it was like an off-the-shoulder top with a scarf that was also pushed off the shoulder, but I actually think it's one piece. And I saw a post by Umi Banuni on Instagram, and she's working on a pattern that's very similar to this, like a kind of off-the-shoulder, kind of fluffier, almost like a cashmere yarn, and it cinches in at the waist and starts ribbing. And the top is so similar to the Keira Knightley one without the chunky cable, which actually is my least favorite part of that top. And yeah, so she's working on a top. It's called the Mew top, and she's doing a testing call soon, or is in the process of testing right now. So keep an eye out for that if you're interested in this kind of like off the shoulder type top. To me, it's not necessarily something that I see myself wearing. It's one of those things where I can acknowledge that it looks really cool and I like it on other people, but it might not be the best for me. And I think that's something in fashion that I'm like trying to get a grasp on, the difference between what I like and what I like wearing. And I think this is one of those things that I like. But yeah. And then the other pattern that I'm going to recommend for this, Vera Grazia, who's on Instagram and YouTube too. She designed an off-the-shoulder sweater called the Patrick Blouse, and it's in testing right now. It's a really similar vibe, but it's like a long sleeve sweater, and it just looks so effortless and like cool girl, and like a really good sweater probably for warm weather too, because you could have like a little shoulder kind of exposed, and it just looks so good. And I'm really excited to like see when that pattern's released, and maybe I'll knit it, but again, I don't know if it's exactly my style, but I do really like it. So, and want to support small designers out there. So, okay, so then the next one is, we're getting into the Florence Pugh category. I have 2 Florence Pugh movie references here, but the first one is from the movie A Good Person with Florence Pugh and Morgan Freeman. Really good movie if you haven't seen it. Really like overcoming life's challenges kind of movie, and just a beautiful like film and great acting, obviously. There's this like in the cover art for the movie, and I think throughout the movie, Florence Pugh's character wears this big oversized sweater that has this like triangular colorwork pattern all over it, and it really gives like movie theater carpet, which movie theater carpet in itself is a vibe. I don't know if it's my vibe, but I feel like this sweater is just really inspiring in like this like all over patchwork colorwork type vibe. And it reminds me a lot of quilt work because quilts are kind of made up in triangles, essentially, like different ratios of triangles to make the quilt motif star. And I've had this pattern for the quilt block scarf by Tamara Jordan saved for a while, and it's just like a cute little scarf with the quilt motif pattern on it. And I have not knit a scarf yet. I know that's like a classic first thing you knit is a scarf, and I think if I were to knit a scarf, it would be something. Actually, I did knit the Sophie scarf, but that's a different scarf in my mind. That's like tight to the neck kind of thing versus this one is long. Yeah, so that one, and I think you would do kind of a warmer or a low contrast palette that's similar to Florence Pugh's sweater in the movie, but or you can have it be bold or neutral, or again just playing around with colors and a color work piece is really fun. So there's also the Maxine sweater by Laura Penrose that has a quilt motif. I think it's a circular yoke, and that one just looks so good. It looks so like cozy, like I'm gonna read a book and sip on my tea in my cabin kind of vibes, in like a homey way. It doesn't quite match the vibe of Florence Pugh's sweater in the movie, but I just had to mention that like the quilt motif that this Florence Pugh character sweater reminded me of. And then I found the Happy Triangle sweater by Kiyomi Bergen, and it's a little sweater it's not as oversized, but you could definitely size up, I'm sure, in the pattern. And it's just a sweater with like little triangles all over it, and I don't think it's duplicate stitch. I don't know the method of construction, but you work it up as you go. And if you watched my knitting ideas video, I talked about an idea that I had to knit a sweater that's inspired by the Animal Crossing grass, and I think if I were to do that, it would be a pattern like this, where you could just have the base of the sweater be green and then the triangles be different shades of green, and kind of mimic the Animal Crossing grass. A little bit of a tangent there, but triangles, quilt work, color work, they're, whatever. Hopefully you're following me. Okay, like I said, there's another Florence Pugh movie on this list, and it's We Live in Time with Andrew Garfield. And Andrew Garfield, his character wears this, again, blue tweed, just a classic crew neck sweater, and the color is so good. It's just like this medium tone blue that I feel like I've been really recognizing that I'm drawn to like mid-tones right now, or like mid-value. Hopefully you're not a color theory expert. I need to do some more research on color theory and stuff. Whatever. But yeah, like the mid shades where it's not too dark and not too light. And I just really like blue tweed. I think it's just really good, classic. And the color reminds me of a color that they used in the sample for the Bonnie Cable sweater by Sanus Garn, which is an all-over cable sweater, but it's in this beautiful blue color in the sample. And I honestly might have saved that to my Ravelry because of the color alone. There's a bunch of like cable work sweaters out there that are on my list, but this one is really solid. It's just like an oversized all-over cable, and I have yet to knit cables, so I would like to try that. And then I know that the Andrew Garfield sweater isn't cabled. Okay, I get it. These aren't exact recommendations to match the reference, whatever. And then I also really like the Trumpet by Josie Paquin, and it's a tweed raglan. The raglan is a cable, and it seems a good step into cabling because there's just 4 cables, one for each raglan, and it goes all the way down to under the armpit. And yeah, it's in like a tweed, which I think I like tweed right now, so could be fun to knit. Okay, another sweater that I saved for the color alone is random, but I took this picture when I was watching The League, which is like a dumb boy TV show, where they're fighting with each other over their fantasy football league. Whatever, okay, I'm not too proud of myself for watching that, but I only started watching that because Jason Mantzoukas is on Taskmaster right now, and I love Taskmaster. I think it's so funny. I love kind of improv, kind of comedy and like on the spot humor, and I think he's really funny on that. And he plays a character in the league, so that's why I started watching the league. But anyway, one of the characters was wearing this ochre like fisherman rib sweater, ochre colored fisherman rib sweater, and it's so good. It's just like such a good yellowy, like with a hint of green sweater, and like I've mentioned, I like really miss my yellow sweater, and I love this color. I think it's so good. The pattern that I'm recommending for this isn't even fisherman rib, but it's the Upstream sweater by Alice Hoyle. I've seen this a few places on Instagram recently, and I love how unique the texture on it is. And just imagine the Upstream sweater in like this yellow ochre color. I think that would be so beautiful. Do I need to knit that? Yeah, I do. Do I have 80 million hands? No. So we'll see if it makes it in the planning process for this fall and winter, but really good nonetheless. Okay, next up. I'll be honest, I was compiling this list, and at a certain point I just started looking up movies and TV shows that I liked and then seeing if there's any knitwear in those movies. A little bit backwards, I know, but one of my favorite movies ever is Mr. Nobody, which isn't like a super popular movie. I honestly don't really hear that many people talking about it. Jared Leto is in it, and it's just a movie about like all the different life paths you can take and not knowing what the right decision is, and he's just kind of like living all the different paths of his life. And it's just really cool. It's a really cool movie, just like one of those movies that makes you think or whatever. But yeah, I really liked it. And in that movie, the dad character, there's a scene where like he's choosing at a train stop to run towards his mom or run towards his dad, and the dad is wearing this like V-neck caramel brown sweater with these like black square motifs along it. It's a little bit geometric, and I couldn't really find a pattern that had a similar type square motif on it, but I don't think it would be too hard to create because it's so geometric, and converting like geometric into like the pixelness of knitwear I think wouldn't be too challenging. But I do think that the terracotta sweater by Lynette kind of has a similar geometric style, in that there's like the component of it that has this like geometric squarish wave detail, and that's the piece that really feels like it matches the one from Mr. Nobody. And I think it could be really good in like a caramel brown with like a black contrast, or even just a darker brown contrast. And yeah, Lynette is the same designer who did the porcelain sweater, which I know everyone like raves about, and I probably won't knit because everyone else has knit. I'm sorry, okay? And yeah, so the next one is the fingerless gloves or mittens that Clementine wears in Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. I think this is another one that if someone else is making a video of knitwear and media, this would come up, because she has these really cool like fingerless gloves that are really chunky and long, and it's striped, and it's like a light blue and blue stripe, which I am obsessed with blue stripes. I just keep looking around and noticing that I have more and more blue striped things in my life. My rug is blue and white striped. I have towels that are blue and white striped. My Olga sweater was blue and blue striped. And yeah, so that's part of what sold me on Clementine's. But I found a pattern called the Two Blue Ruins by Raven Sherbo, and it's an exact replica of Clementine's fingerless gloves. And yeah, I just really like the idea of like them being so like long. It's almost like wearing a full sleeve in the glove itself. And I feel like that could be really practical for winter when I'm taking Alma out for a walk or something and it's cold outside and I'm just like wearing a t-shirt inside, and I could put on these gloves and put on my coat, and then it's just like I'm wearing kind of a sweater inside my coat. Plus, fingerless just is really practical for me because like picking up dog poop in a dog poop bag wearing mittens or gloves is probably impossible. And yeah. Okay. The last one. I know you've all been waiting for the last one and like what it is, but this is the one that kind of started this concept for this video for me. And I watched this documentary called Fire of Love with my boyfriend, I think back in maybe January or December even. And first of all, if you're a documentary person like I am, this documentary is so beautifully filmed, and it's about this couple who are both volcanologists and filmmakers, and they just take these like beautiful shots of volcanoes and lava, and I think they're just like researching it, and it's based, or the time period that it's in is in the like late 1960s, I believe. And the fashion sense that they have is so fucking good. They have these little beanies with the perfect size pom-pom on top, and I love them. I think there's some really good ones where it's just like a red, like small beanie with like a little perfect size red pom-pom on top, and my boyfriend and I just became obsessed with pom-pom beanies. But I think a lot of modern pom-pom beanies have like giant pom-poms, and that doesn't give the same vibe that the ones that they wear in Fire of Love do. Like the pom-pom size is super important to me. And in January I actually self-drafted a little beanie that's navy and stripes, and I made my first pom-pom ever, and it didn't come out that great. So I would love to like try to do that again this winter, because I think it's just really fun. It just adds a little bit of playfulness that I like in fashion, and a little bit of like this retro-ness to it too. And the pattern that I picked for this is the Small Stupid Hat by Ichikawa, or Stockinette Bitch here on YouTube and Instagram. I love her. I think she's so funny. And I really like this hat pattern. Again, I'm a tiny beanie person, and so I want to like knit this pattern. Plus I haven't knit a beanie pattern before, and so I think that would probably come out better than my self-drafted, like I figured it out myself before I was really skilled in knitting. Yeah, and then I would like to get like a pom-pom maker or something, because I think that the pom-poms would probably come out better than my like really poorly constructed cardboard pom-pom shape help maker thing. So okay, I'm gonna stop there because I feel like I threw a lot of media out there. I threw a lot of pattern recommendations out there. Hopefully this was like helpful and inspiring for you. Leave a comment on like some knitwear in movies or media that you really enjoy or really inspire you, and like, comment, subscribe, all the things. I'm at knit.ali on Instagram if you want to stay up to date on like what I'm working on the short term, and I'll be back with another podcast episode very soon. So thank you for watching. Yeah, bye.